To me, entrepreneurship is that you get so intensively, so passionately obsessed with the idea that you keep pushing it. You push it as long as you can to see how far it will go, how far it will change the game for everyone, for all of us.
Our guest today runs the only boutique and exclusive omnichannel digital experience management company in the country. Being the first representative of Google for Sri Lanka, the work he started at Google has been extended to his new venture with a more holistic approach. The company helps brands, organizations, and the Sri Lankan government to develop their digital practices. He was a lead management consultant for the IT sector in Singapore and held leadership positions at Cisco, Lenovo, and IBM across geographies. A keynote speaker, presenter, and a moderator for countless events, he was also invited to speak at the inaugural TEDx Colombo on entrepreneurship. He is none other than the Chief Operations Officer of Antira Solutions, Rohan Jayavira.
Any idea can be fantastic, can be made a multi-million rupee business, but execution is not everyone's cup of tea. It is about doing all the dirty deeds that nobody is willing to do.
Hi Rohan.
Yeah.
Thank you very much for joining with IEEE Chronicles.
Sure.
So let's get started.
Sure.
Right. So your name is known for a variety of achievements, such as from being the first country consultant for Google,
Yeah.
as well as being the founder of an award-winning integrated agency, Antira Solutions.
Sure.
So let's sum it up for the sake of the audience.
Sure.
What exactly is Antira Solutions? What motivated you towards its creation?
Okay. So I think I'll just give you a bit of a background context. It's very important to be able to understand the context of starting something before, really saying this is why I started. So from my career, I always worked for multinational companies, and then beyond a certain point, I was able to go to Singapore. I worked there for a while, and then I got this amazing chance to work for Google, and I came back to Sri Lanka, as you rightfully said, as the first employee. I think a lot of people misunderstand what Google thinks and the way what is the platform Google gave. I mean, I think I learned about digital marketing from Google, but I think there are a lot of skills that I actually built over the years that helped me to deliver the role I did actually at Google. So I think Google gave me this amazing platform where people actually started to recognize me and kind of got the chance to talk to me, and I think that was I'm forever grateful for that. I think after working for Google, I think it's really hard to assume what is that next company. I mean, what company will be good enough to work for as a next after Google, right? I mean, it's a really tough one, and I think a lot of people. I think at that time there was a lot of organizations starting up. One of the things I understood about the market in Sri Lanka is that there were a lot of people wanting to understand digital, wanting to do digital, but there weren't really good enough agencies for doing it. The digital marketing was broken into multiple areas, and there were multiple organizations doing multiple things, but when people wanted accountability, people wanted results, these multiple organizations were really unable to kind of tie these pieces together. So we saw that as an opportunity, and I thought, and more importantly, I think it's really important when you start doing a company to find someone who really is almost like the opposite. So I met this gentleman called Niranka Pereira, who is, in my mind, is an absolute genius. He's a technically as well as from the subject matter, he's genius. I actually had the platform and the access to market, the business development, the sales, and understanding of all of that. And I think it really kind of matched perfectly well. And I think we spoke about it. He was with another company. I was just coming out of Google, so it took a bit of a discussion and planning it out to figure out, and we said we are going to be an organization that will take ownership of and be accountable for your digital strategy. And I think that is the philosophy or the concept behind starting the company. I think one of the things people think about when you talk about startups is that people think that you always have to start with a brand new idea. I don't think it is true. I think there could be underserviced markets. So what we did isn't brand new.
Trying to bring out the best of what was there.
Correct. I mean, it was just that there was a space in the customer's mind that was not serviced properly or underserviced. Right word is underserviced, and they were looking for someone who can service them better. And I mean, 4 years on, we are still there, and as you rightfully said, we want some great stuff, good achievements, and we are happy with where we are at the moment.
All right. So the success of Entire Solutions
Yeah.
is one of the main things that you're known for, as well as being the country consultant.
Yeah.
So that's the entrepreneur side of you,
Yeah,
as well as so we'd like to now get to know about your personal life.
yeah,
That means your childhood.
yeah.
How was your childhood like? What did you aspire to be as a young child?
So I think I had a very average. I come from a very average family. My father was in the military for the longest time, so we grew up very close to the war. And I was very fortunate that my father's and mother's desire. I mean, it's a normal story of parents from outside of Colombo coming into Colombo and wanting their sons to go to children to go to a better school. So I was very fortunate. From EFI scholarship, I went to Royal. And I think that was a very important starting point. The starting point, I think, is that as children or as parents, the only thing you can give to your children is essentially a better platform, and hopefully they will make good use of it. The rest of it is up to them to do it. So I think the only thing I think this is. I don't know if this is my father. I think I will give mostly to my mother for this one. I think my mother instilled this desire to be more. So I think I'm very proud to say that I'm a very ambitious person. My ambition drives me to be better every day. So the downside of that is that you sometimes end up taking a lot more than you can do. So that's, if I can control that, I think I can achieve a lot. So I think being ambitious is something that was instilled a long time. I think it's also because we probably didn't grow up with a lot in the house. So as a result, wanting to achieve something, wanting to be something is always been a desire. And I think desperation or that kind of a situation, ambition, drives you to achieve more. And I think that's probably the reason why I'm here. And I think I made some good decisions as well along the way. Some of them are accidents. So I think you need to have that also going for you. But
Plan out everything.
you can never plan out. I think it's, looking back, it's easier, but when you're looking forward, you really don't know what's going to happen. There are times I got fired from jobs, and it was scary thinking what's going to happen to the future. But I think you have to have belief, you have to have passion, you need to have confidence and say, no matter what happens, I'm going to make it work. And important message to everyone, if at all I can give, is that constantly be making yourself better. Immaterial of what. It doesn't matter whether you want to be a hot dog maker, or you want to be selling fried rice, or you want to be an AI specialist or whatever. But constantly be evolving, constantly be getting yourself better. Invest time in developing yourself. That's very powerful.
Yeah, we shouldn't stagnate in one place for too long.
Yeah, here's the thing. I don't think everybody is made out to be a startup there. Everybody should not try to start up their own company. Everybody should not try to. It's like I shouldn't try to play cricket. I think I'll suck at cricket, and I shouldn't probably never make it to the first level, and I could be just another name or a cricketer that nobody knew about.
But you never know.
But I'm saying it's very. I think I always say that it's really important to be proud and be self-aware about what you're good at. Now today, I don't pretend to say that I know digital as well as my business part, but I know enough. But my strength comes from the fact that I can articulate a business strategy, I can have a very high level conversation, I can do sales, I can do business. And I think that is the area that I'm very strong at, and I believe that I'm better than anybody else in the market. And I keep working at making it that. And I think knowing what you're good at, knowing what you want to be good at is really, really important. I think oftentimes we get a little misguided thinking that, I am good in this and I can be good in that. And I think that's the wrong thing. What you should do, my recommendation, this is, I think, counterintuitive in ways, is that if you believe you're good at something, you should just go all out, forget all your weaknesses.
So it seems like you've had a very interesting childhood. So what was it like next? What was life like at University of Moldova?
So I think if I trail back and why I got into University of Moldova, I was never the smartest guy in the room. I was never the brightest guy. I was never good in. I'm a guy who got like 35 for maths. A lot of people don't even know that story, right? But the truth of the matter is that growing up in the kind of background and the society and wanting to be better, you realize that you're not going to be a director of your father's company. because your father doesn't have a company, right? At 22. So as a result, then the only thing that drives you is the desire to achieve the next level. Then you realize that you are not entitled for anything. You are not going to inherit anything. So the only way that
Do it for yourself. So.
you have to do it for yourself. That's the only way out. And luckily, this is, I think, where you have to have luck. I mean, luck is that I probably didn't fall into a bunch of friends who were drinking every weekend. Probably girls didn't like me, so I didn't have really a lot of girlfriends, and I got massively distracted during my studies. True story, right? So as a result, I think what happened was the only thing for me I really focused on was like mathematics, and I think I did maths really well, and I knew that I need to get into the university. I didn't know whether I wanted to be electronic engineer, to be very honest. I just realized that I have to be in the university to get to the next level. So I worked really, really hard. As I said, I was never the smartest. I was never the brightest. But in terms of number of hours put in, I'm probably world class. In terms of hours I put in for it. And that's how I got through. And I got into Moratuwa campus as a result. And when I got into Moratuwa campus, I felt like a bit of an alien. Alien in the sense the subject matter I wasn't comfortable with. But I did well enough in the first year to get into electronic. But then there was a 1-year closure at University of Moratuwa where there was a big clash between two student parties, right? And at that time, I obviously wanted to work. I didn't want to waste my time thinking when are they going to start. So university was closed almost 1 year. I ended up working for an event management company. And that management company completely changed my perspective about engineering and got me on a completely new path of the sales and business development and marketing.
Where it changed.
That is when actually everything changed.
You felt like you had a better career in the sales sector?
I think it was you are quite young and you're just trying to be good. I would personally say I was drawn by the human element. Then the engineering mathematics element, interaction, seeing people, how marketing, the branding and all that work, that kind of got me very excited. So that's probably the reason why I when I went back, I failed 2 subjects in the next year, I failed 3 subjects the year after. I was pretty average. I'm like one of the 2 people who passed out of my batch without a degree, without a second upper or a first class.
But still you're doing fabulous right now.
Very lucky. So I'm saying, so it was a lot of fun. I mean, but I think that particular opportunity set me on a completely new direction. So University of Moratuwa was, for me, I'm very proud to be off from that, no doubt about it. I'm very proud to have that degree. But have I made the best use of it? Probably not.
Okay, so you said you started working at an event management company. So
Yeah.
did you pursue that after you finished the degree, or what did you do next?
So I think what happened was when I was 19, my father said, "You are now old enough. You figure it out." And so my mother was like, I told my mother that I don't want to go to university. I'll work somewhere. But my mother somehow convinced me to stay in the university. So as a result, what happened was I realized if I'm to make it work, and I was already had a bit of a taste in this event management and all that, I wanted to continuously work. So I was in the event management company and I tried to look. So I went for, wanted to be a radio presenter. I thought that was a pretty cool job. 2 reasons. One is I can work in the night and I can do my studies during daytime. So I went for a number of interviews. I remember going to FM 99 interviews, by the way. And they said my voice is shit. And I couldn't get a job there. So I went to Legends, I went to Sun, all of them, by the way. So anyway, cut a long story short, so it did work out. Then the next best thing essentially that came along was I probably can do a DJ.
Yeah, you said you were
Yeah.
award-winning DJ.
Correct. So I think what happened was, again, I begged a friend of mine to do it. I mean, there's a long story, nice story behind it, but eventually ended up being like a nightclub DJ. I probably have played in every ballroom, every rooftop, every type of nightclub, from trance,
And that's
techno.
why you're such a good dancer as well.
You have not seen me dance. That's why you are saying that. Thank you.
So you said you're good at ballroom, jive.
No, so that's more formal dancing. Yeah, so I've done that as well. So I think, as I said, I mean, I put my hand up to any opportunity to learn, and I think that's one of the things I don't see with young people. I mean, today, we didn't have this kind of access to information and opportunity to meet people. Today, people have that access, but they are not taking that opportunity.
Yes.
we were desperate. We will, if people say, I'm coming, can you meet? We will be the first to put up our hands up and go and learn. And I think, when I look back, those are the things still drives us. And teachers have taught us the best things. And I think one of the lessons I can give you, the young people, is that take any opportunity to learn anything. It doesn't matter how simple it is, and that's all going to help you. Before answering the question about the startups, Antara is most likely my second startup. I actually did start a company about almost 10 years before that. It's called the Design Store, and the idea was because myself and my wife, we both are huge book lovers. So we were very specific about wanting to bring like this design and fashion books to the market. So that was the idea. But I think I learned a lot it didn't really work out. And I think the lessons of that startup taught me a lot about when we started up Antara, and that really helped me a lot. And I think just to summarize, I think for the benefit of everyone watching this, I think focus is really important when you are starting something. Second one is that's the domain expertise, the subject matter. So as a philosophy today, I never put my hand into something that, unless I have personal understanding of, like, people ask you from very strange things like, would you like to get into a cinnamon business, to a AI business, to all kind of thing. And I think it's very exciting to get involved with all of that. But I think staying focused and not getting involved is very, very important as well. And knowing your domain is also really important.
Considering, as we spoke about earlier, considering the fact that you had an engineering background, did that help you with what you pursued afterwards?
Absolutely. The reason why engineering helps you is that engineers can be accountants, engineers can be designers, engineers can be anything. I think it gives a good foundation layer where the analytics, the thinking of technology, because today technology is everywhere. I think those helps. And no doubt, even for me, my really career started as a technology business development sales role in IBM. So I think that really helps, the fact that you have the background. So if there's any single message to anyone, I think kids today have to learn two things for sure. You need to learn technology, you need to learn software programming, and the other one, you need to learn skills. Skills in terms of presentation skills, being able to speak, all of that. I think those two are really going to take you very, very further. Immaterial of which whether you can be in the hospitality, you can be in the healthcare, you can be anywhere. But those two are very fundamental.
Yeah, because most people, they have the technical abilities, but then when it comes to soft skills, there's a small place.
Yeah, that's always the problem have been for most of the Sri Lankan universities, right? And we've been discussing this for over, I don't know for how long.
Yes, makes sense. Okay, so on a separate note, let's move on to a little bit about IEEE.
Yeah.
In your opinion, what do you think the role of such professional organizations should be? And how important will such entities be for career development and reaching heights in technical research?
Okay, so that was a very loaded question. So let me break it down and give you. First of all, I think IEEE needs to build relevance. What I mean by building relevance, why a lot of kids today don't really attach themselves is their lifestyle, the way they value system, the belief system, and everything is very different. So first role of IEEE is to really build up a mandate and programs around connecting with the people, youth, who are current day undergraduates. I think that's really, really important. The second part of it is it's really up to you. Essentially as IEEE, whatever the programs, whatever the mandate that you want to drive, you can drive it. But if you don't relate to the people and if you don't create value, I think you are definitely not going to build it. And you need to be contemporary. You need to be modern. You need to be as of relevant today. That's why the key word for me, for any organization who's trying to build a base, I always say it's just about building relevance. You can't have old school processes, procedures, and think that you'll be able to attract youth unless you have something so valuable that people need it and they will come, but you will still not build a community. So I think IEEE need to go back and start thinking about how do we build a community? What is the value creation process? How do we stay relevant to the audiences or the target groups that we want to be relevant? And I think if you do those 3-4 basics, I think you're okay.
Right. So next, on a serious note,
I thought we were serious all this time. We are now getting serious only now. Okay.
Okay, so hard times are obviously
Yeah.
something that is specific to all of our lives.
Story of our life. Yeah.
So, with everything that you have achieved, you must have definitely faced some hard times yourself, as you
No,
mentioned
always, yeah.
earlier. So, what was your inspiration at such times? What kept you going?
So I think I remember going to Peradeniya and I speak at whatever that ICE or something. No, so one of the events and I spoke about it, and the gentleman before me spoke about, and someone in the audience asked, "Have you failed?" And he said he had failed about 3-4 times. And then I was the next speaker, and I think I got the same question, and I said like I fail every day. So I think for me, I said, and I believe, and I truly mean that I think we fail every day. For example, I think it's about waking up every morning and asking yourself, are you the best version of yourself today? And can I be that best version of yourself today? Have you done the things? For example, have you got to the meeting on time? Have you, made sure that your, family is taken care of? Have you written the email properly? So there's a lot of things that you need to be very conscious about doing. And I think for me, failure is a way of life. Failure cannot be without it. I think you can't, in this world of so much of turbulence and uncertainty, I think failure is something that is a absolute eventuality. I think you are going to get it. I always say, don't credit yourself too much and don't compliment yourself too much. Sorry, don't compliment yourself too much. Don't blame yourself too much.
You can't actually
Because
face the unknown.
shit can happen, and basically there could be things that you are not in control of. Like for example, you are waiting for ABC to happen, AB happened but C didn't happen, and then you still didn't get the outcome you wanted. But the C would have been because suddenly there was a huge change in the decision making process. So what are you going to do? So you go back and keep trying, right? But I think what drives me is, as I said, I think all of us are here for a very short period of time. I think we have 30 years of valued life before you were a kid, and after that you are too old. So I think it's about, I want to know that as Rohan Jaivir, my full potential. Have I lived to my full potential? It's not about making money. It's about when I look back and say, have I done all the things as Rohan Jaivir potentially can do as a human being, the human potential I
Am I
have?
satisfied?
Yeah, and if I look back and say I have done that, then I'm very happy. I don't care about the failures. I don't care about the victories also.
Actually, they are the things that have made us who we are right now.
Correct, absolutely.
So now we're going to go into a small quick fire series.
Yeah.
I told you about it earlier. Okay, so just tell the first random answer that comes into your head.
Sure.
Okay, so Elon Musk or Steve Jobs?
Elon Musk any day.
Favorite holiday destination?
Wow. Home, bed.
Wow. Messi or Ronaldo?
Ronaldo. Work ethic.
Favorite TV series?
Shit. No idea.
Okay. Celebrity crush?
Kate Beckinsale.
Okay. Who will die next in Game of Thrones?
Don't know. I don't want to go there. I watched it and I don't know who. I don't want my name is escaping. Jon Snow to die. I just don't want him to die. That's all. I just want him to live.
He
That's all.
died once, but he came back.
He came back.
If you could do anything you wanted right now, what would it be?
Same thing. Nothing.
Favorite movie?
Favorite movie, Matrix. Oh, come on, easy.
Okay. So you've planned a vacation for your wife's birthday.
Yeah.
But then on the day before, you get a chance to pitch a business plan to Elon Musk. What would you do?
Wife's birthday. Any
Family
day.
man.
Absolutely.
Okay. So one final
If it's
question.
that good, Elon Musk will give me another day.
True. Okay. So one final question.
Yeah.
What does your perfect day look like?
I think I have all my days perfect. I don't live in that kind of a situation. My personal thing is that for me the day is perfect as long as when I go back in the night before I go to sleep, if I can say that I've done everything I want to do and I have tried my best every day, that's a perfect day.
Okay. So we're coming to the last stages.
Yeah.
So we all have regrets, things that
Yeah.
we wish that we haven't done.
Yeah.
So if you were 18 and
Yeah.
you could change anything you want,
Yeah.
what would it be?
Nothing.
Nothing. Everything has led you to who you are today.
Absolutely.
Right. So moving on to the final question.
Yeah.
Something that has been on my mind the entire time.
Mm.
Rohan, what's next for you? what do you think your future looks like? Is there something that you would like to accomplish in the future?
But I really think Antaira is at its infancy stages. It's like a very fragile child right now, where there are a lot of things that can have an impact on their business. You know, economic, currency, situation. All of these affects us right now. So I think my next absolute focus is about how can we get that business to a level where this builds a level of resilience, it builds a level of resistance, and I think we can do a lot more of taking care of my team. So focusing on that a little bit. All of these are attached. Like for example, if you do financially well, everything else gets fixed as well, right? So I think it's just a matter of taking it to the next level, and the company can go anywhere after that. Just allowing it to breathe and I think being patient enough to see it grow. That's possibly what I want to do, and hopefully when another 20 years IEEE still would want to interview me, that will also be a nice thing, no?
Yeah.
I ask for simple things. I don't ask for very complicated stuff. So that's what it is.
Okay, thank you so much
Pleasure.
for talking with us. It was
No
a
worries.
pleasure.
Thanks, man. Pleasure.